Yo, what's up, Diamond family? It's your man Vivi, and welcome back to the VVS Academy. As you guys know, I'm here every week dropping off gems, teaching you to record and mix your music better. So if that sounds good to you, stick around. Look, man, I got a really crazy video for you guys today. Today I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how to fix thin vocals. All right, a lot of times the vocals come out thin, and you think the only fix is to double them, but no, I'm going to show you guys how to fix thin vocals right now. Look, I won't even overtalk it. If you're struggling to get your vocals to sit inside of the beat and really balance out your vocals and beat every single time, check out my free course down below. It's going to teach you how to balance out your vocals on a 2-track every single time perfectly. It takes about 15 minutes and it's completely free. So check that out down below. All right, let's jump into the track. I'll play back the vocal as it is now finished, and then I'll peel back and show you what we did.
Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clear, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' duck the honey, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 villain, bustin' with my team. Always trying to make another
Cool. So as you can hear, the vocal sits in there, sits in the beat really nicely. It's got good presence. It dominates the track the way it should. Let's hear it before we added some of these effects, and let's listen to what it sounds like.
You and whoever hit it in event. Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clear, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' duck the honey, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 villain, bustin' with my team. You and whoever hit it in event. Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clear, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' duck the honey, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 villain, bustin' with my team.
Cool. So what happened? What did we do to get that vocal wider, fuller, fatter? What was it, right? Because if we listen to the vocal without the effects, it sounds spiky, it sounds harsh, and it sounds thin. But somehow, adding these effects, we were able to get a thicker, fuller, fatter vocal without really increasing the volume. So the first thing that you're going to want to make sure that you're doing, I think that helps me out a lot, is using some kind of analog emulation. So let's bypass the effects I have here. We're not even using this EQ, so we'll get rid of that. Bypass this compressor. And the first thing I'm using here is the virtual mix bus or the virtual channel. You can use either or. And it's emulating the sound of an analog console. Now, you don't have to use Slate. You can use the Waves NLS. You can use any kind of saturation box you want. But I like to use this one because I just use the VMR so much. It's just convenient for me to use. But I think using an analog emulation does so much to add body and depth and fullness to the vocal. So it's a very subtle thing. I don't even know if you guys will be able to hear it, but I'm going to flip back and forth with and without the saturation or the emulation and let you hear it.
Whoever hit it in event. Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep you and whoever hit it in event. Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clear.
Yeah, so it's just adding some saturation, just adding some additional harmonics to the vocal that are just filling out the frequency range of the vocal. So that's the first thing we want to add. The second thing we want to do is just compress it really well. So we've added 2 compressors here. One is faster, one's a little bit slower. So they're both relatively fast compressors, which means they're cutting the peaks, but they're slow enough that they're letting the very first things, the very first edge of the word he's saying come through clearly. So the first compressor is an SSL style compressor. I'm following it up with a slower optical compressor, and it's really doing a lot to solidify the vocal and have it hold in place. So let's listen again.
You and whoever hit it in event. Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clear, never know when opposition's trying to creep.
Let's go ahead and get rid of that compression.
You and whoever hit it in event. Always trying to make another flip, only bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clear, never know when opposition's trying to creep.
It's like he stepped up to the mic now. The compression is like he started to say it with his chest. It is really what it is. It just gives you a stronger, you just get a better representation of everything that was said because we're eliminating some of the peaks and valleys or the dips in volume and making it a more consistent sound. So by default, it just sounds stronger, more convincing, more real. Right, so we followed that up with some dynamic compression. I'm sorry, dynamic EQ, which for this you can use what I'm using, which is the TDR Nova. You can use the Waves C4 to C6, any of those. But there's a little bit of harshness in the upper mid-range. And if you listen to the vocal, even with all the effects on it, it still sounds very bright, very clear, very present, even though we're digging out kind of a lot of the upper range. So let's solo this band right here and hear what frequency I'm cutting.
Bosses ain't who bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clean, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' double down on these, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 million, bustin' with my team.
But this is the tip that's gonna make your vocal sound a little more expensive. And it's something that most people won't do, but you gotta cut some high end. Most of the microphones that we're recording on, if they're not like, super top tier, like, very expensive microphones, you're not recording on, like U87s or C800s and all that kind of thing. A lot of times these mics have some upper mid-range boosts and they're adding too much of that higher range to kind of simulate clarity, and we don't really want to do that. We want an actual clear signal. So when you roll off some of that additional high-end boost, it just makes the mic sound like a more even, more flat, more expensive microphone. So if you want your vocals to sound a little more expensive, sometimes you got to turn down or cut some of the high end. But the thing about using this dynamic EQ is that it's only turning it down when it crosses a certain threshold. So every word isn't turning down that high end frequency, because we still want that clarity that comes from that. So here, watch how this moves. You'll see it's only really turning down the volume on some parts, and it's turning it down more on certain parts than others, and it just depends on how much of that frequency we want to cut is actually coming through. I know that's a little kind of an advanced way to explain it, but I'm trying to make it, as simple as possible.
Whoever hit any van, always trying to make another flip. Only bosses hang with bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clean, never know when opposition's trying to creep.
There you go. So the thing that I would maybe adjust is the attack time. I would maybe make it a little bit faster, and maybe adjust the ratio, but nothing too crazy. It's fine as is. And the last thing that I added was just another compressor, just to round everything out. A lot of times after I add any kind of EQ, whether it's dynamic or not, I like to add some compression to just keep things flat, keep things smooth. You'll see we're not doing very much gain reduction here. It won't go too far past 1.
Whoever hit any van, always trying to make another flip. Only bosses hang with bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clean, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' double down on these, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 million, bustin' with my team.
Cool, that sounded really good. I think the next thing that I will probably do is grab some bus compression for the overall track. And I think this will really just kind of tie things in and really give it that solid sound that we want it to have. And it'll be a great place to kind of really kick off the mix. So let's see what we got.
Whoever hit any van, always trying to make another flip. Only bosses hang with bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clean, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' double down on these, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 million, bustin' with my team. Whoever hit any van, always trying to make another flip. Only bosses hang with bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clean, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' double down on these, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 million, bustin' with my team. Whoever hit it.
And as you see, I like to come back to the mixer sometimes just so I can see how loud the vocal bus is versus the music bus, because they should be living around the same place. But look, man, these are the tips that I'm giving you guys week in and week out. And if you need a little bit more help, drop me a line down below. Remember, my name is VV and I'm here for you. Stay humble, make diamonds only. Peace.
Whoever hit any van, always trying to make another flip. Only bosses hang with bosses that you see. All my men around me keep it clean, never know when opposition's trying to creep. All my dogs around me be equipped, we gon' double down on these, stay from off the scene. Everybody around me gon' be lit, counting 100 million, bustin' with my team.